This is a Zeblaze BTalk Lite. You can make calls directly from this watch. You can measure heart rate, blood oxygen, and blood pressure, or even play some games. It comes in an okay looking box that doesn't exactly scream high quality, as it's a bit flimsy. Inside we find the watch itself, with one set of bands, a user manual, and a magnetic charging cable. The watch case is 44.5 mm wide, 38 mm tall, 10.8 mm thick, and is made of plastic. The display is a 1.83-inch TFT with a resolution of 240 by 286 pixels and a brightness of 600 nits. On the left side we have the speaker, and on the right side we find the microphone. On the right side we also find a button that looks like a crown, but it doesn't have any rotating functions. It can be pressed to turn on and off the display, and is used to quickly go back to the main display. By holding it for a couple seconds, we get an option to turn the watch off. Around the back are all the sensors and the connector for the charger. It's a magnetic charging cable, but it's not all that strong, so better make sure it's securely attached when you leave the watch for the 1.5 hours it takes to charge it. Band's width is 20 mm and they are soft and comfortable to wear, but they do attract a bit of dust. Luckily, they are easy to replace, as they have quick release pins for easy removal. My only complaint is that the retainer doesn't have a stopper or placeholder, so it will slide both up and down during the day. If this is something that bothers you, you should probably replace the bands. The menu system itself is easy to use and looks quite good, but let's start with the watch faces. To swap between the installed faces, just hold on the display. The selection is good and you'll find a lot more in the app. This watch has passive watch faces, which means you can't tap anything to open the functions from here. Swiping up we find the notifications from calls, messages and other apps. Swiping left we have the favorites, or tiles as they are often called. But these are not simplified versions of the functions, as it shows the actual full function with all the details. Swiping right we have a list of recently used apps and a list of all apps. On top we have a shortcut to the assistant, but for this to work we have to activate the phone function in the toggles. Swiping down we have the toggles. We have do not disturb mode, battery saving mode, phone mode, screen brightness, e-cards, and the settings menu. One interesting thing on this watch is that you can change the layout of the menu. Here's list view with icons and text, grid view with only icons, parallel with a nice animation, surface where all icons are on a big grid, crescent with text on the side, full moon, which is the same just horizontal, helm is like a wheel, and honeycomb, which I think most of you have seen somewhere else before. Further down we have settings for vibration, ringing, and some of the toggles we already saw in the toggles menu. Now let's move over to the menu and see what functions we get with this watch. Activity is where we can see today's activity results, and we first get a graph of our goals with some more details below. Further down we have a graph for today's steps, and here's a graph for the last 7 days. The phone call function is where you go to make calls. Here we have a recent call history, a dial pad to enter phone numbers, and a contact list. Zeblaze claims the battery can last up to 280 minutes of continuous phone calls. Call quality is actually quite good, with solid and clear sound from the speaker, and the person on the other end can hear me clearly. The last result for heart rate measurement can be found here, along with minimum and maximum results for today. Further down, we have a graph for today and an intensity level. To start a new measurement, just tap anywhere on the display. Compared to the Google Pixel Watch 2, the results are very similar. Sleep monitoring results are presented in a nice way like a clock, showing the total sleep time, when I fell asleep and when I woke up. We can also see deep sleep, REM, and so on. But as with many of these cheaper watches, it struggles to catch awake time. It almost never shows up in the results. Sometimes it also struggles to detect when I fell asleep. Especially if I was laying or sitting on the sofa watching TV, it would sometimes think I was sleeping. Another minus is that I can't find any option to turn sleep tracking function off. We can measure blood pressure, but it can only be started manually from the watch or the phone. It is nice though that it's got a list of the 7 last results on the watch. For SpO2, we have the same type of view with a list of the 7 last recordings at the bottom. Here are a lot of exercise modes to choose from, but they are not in alphabetical order, so you may have to scroll around a bit to find what you need. If you can't find what you're looking for in the list, there are more to choose from in these categories. When starting a new exercise, it is possible to set a goal for time spent, calories, distance, or we can start without a goal. This watch doesn't have a built-in GPS, so it quickly starts the activity, and while it's active we can see the time spent, steps, calories, heart rate, distance, pace, and at the bottom is an intensity indicator. There's not much more information in the app, other than a graph of the heart rate, average speed, pace, and heart rate. In exercise records, we have a history of finished activities, with some basic information about the results, but sadly no map. Weather looks quite nice, with the time of sunrise and sunset, and a simple forecast for the next few days. Messages is where we find all the notifications, and it's the same view as we get when swiping up from the main display. When getting a text message, it looks like this. It's quite long, but sadly it doesn't show any emojis. It's also not possible to send messages. Notifications for third-party apps are supported, and we can choose from the list we have here. If the app you want isn't here, it's still possible to get notifications from it by switching on the Others option at the bottom. The downside with switching this on is that it will show almost all notifications that pop up on the phone, which for me got very annoying, and it had a big impact on the battery life on the watch, so I had to switch it off. Shutter is a remote for taking pictures with the phone's camera. In the app there's a shutter function, and when touching the watch, a timer will start before taking the picture. For controlling music, we have a simple remote on the watch. It looks nice, but it only has functions for play, pause, skip forward and backwards. We can see the song's title in the corner, but it's not possible to adjust the volume. If you need help managing stress, this relaxation function has 2 options. Stressed is a breathing exercise that tells you when to breathe in and out. Falling asleep does the same thing, but it will also tell you to hold your breath at some points. In the countdown timer, we can choose one of the preset timers, or we can set one manually at the bottom. On this watch, the timer will continue in the background if you exit the function, and when the time is up, the watch will vibrate 3 times, and that's it. There's no option to play an alarm or sound when the time is up, which is a bit strange, since it's got a speaker. Next we have AI voice, which has nothing to do with AI. It will just activate Google Assistant on the phone, and we can say commands through the microphone on the watch. The alarm function looks very nice and it's easy to set up. This can be done on the watch or from the app on the phone. The problem here is that the vibrator on the watch is quite weak, even on the highest setting. I used the alarm for a couple of weeks and it didn't manage to wake me up every day. I'm glad I have a backup alarm on the phone. Here's a nice stopwatch that supports laps, but it doesn't support multitasking, so it's not possible to exit the function without stopping it first. Cycle tracking is for women, so I don't know how well this works. Find phone plays a sound on the phone, but will of course only work if the phone is connected by Bluetooth. We also have 4 different games on this watch. Battleship, which is a simple space shooter. Hamster, where we just tap the hamster when it pops up. Floppy, which is just a copy of the Flappy Bird game. 204S, which I haven't tried before, so I don't know the rules here. Anyway, it's fun to have a couple simple games on the watch. A calculator is also nice to have, and it works as well as a calculator can work. The settings menu isn't very big, but we have some good options here. The watch does not have a light sensor, so we have to set the display brightness manually. We can also set how long it takes before the display is automatically shut off. Watch faces can be changed from here, and there are a lot to choose from in the app. The only downsides are that you can't open any functions by tapping on the items in the watch face, and that it takes quite long to install a new one. Menu view are the menu types we had a look at earlier. Wrist raise will turn the display on while raising the wrists. Some watches have an option to set a time schedule to prevent the display from turning on at night, but sadly it's not available here. In vibrate and ring we can set the vibration intensity. In mode we can choose vibrate and ring, but I think this is only for calls, because notifications and alarms do not have any sound. Audio Bluetooth will play media on the phone on the watch speaker, meaning if you play a YouTube video on the phone, the sound will come from the watch. For this to work, the phone function must be switched on first. There's also a Do Not Disturb mode and a low power mode. The Zeblaze BTalk Lite has a 230 mAh battery, which is supposed to last up to 14 days with heavy use. In my first test I had everything switched on, even third-party app notifications, which is a bit annoying as it will show notifications for everything that pops up on the phone. Anyway, with it on, the battery died after just 4 days, which isn't very good. I also did a couple rounds with it switched off, and the battery lasted for an average of 7 to 8 days, which I guess is okay. To get up to the 14-day mark, I guess everything has to be switched off. As a short verdict, I can say that the Zeblaze BTalk Lite is a nice looking watch with decent battery life when the third-party app notifications are switched off. It's got a nice large display and a menu system that responds quickly. I especially like that we can choose different styles for the menu view. Call quality is good and it's easy to turn the phone function on and off. It's a bit lacking in the activity tracking data, but that's expected when there's no built-in GPS. Sleep tracking is bad at detecting when I fell asleep, so the results are very inaccurate. Since it's so inaccurate, I would like an option to switch it off, but that's not possible. Text notifications are a bit limited, so long messages will be cut, which is a bit annoying. But for the low price, I still think it's an interesting watch with some good functions. And that's it for this video. Remember to subscribe and click the bell for more videos. Have a nice day and see you in the next one. Bye bye.